What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, man, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. All of the links to all of my stuff are in the podcast description for this episode. So that means if you made it here, then you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. I hope that everybody's doing well, man. We are officially in June. I was actually waiting to record the intro to the show because my air conditioning was on. So it might kick on back here in a second because it's a hot one out here in Tennessee. But I hope everybody's doing well, man. I hope that you are excited for the summer as I am. I'm a big basketball guy, and we've got a fun finals coming up with the Mavs and the Celtics. So even though my beloved Pistons are not in it, I'm still a fan, still watch. And yeah, man, it's shaping up to be a good summer. There's a lot of great tours going on right now, a lot of great bands. Obviously, I'm here in the Music City, so there's a ton of great music here, and I feel very blessed and very fortunate to be in the position that I am to not only bring these shows to you guys, but also to live in a place where there's just a lot of great music and a lot of great things happening. Even though I am super pale and white as a ghost. Thank God I grew up in an era where sunscreen exists because there was a time when it didn't, and people were just going out there and turning into friggin' lobsters. Man, I don't know how we made it, but we did. But I went on a walk for like 30 minutes last week, and I got a little red. I didn't put nothing on because I was like, I'm going to be in the shade most of the time. It's 30 minutes, and your boy got burnt. But anyway, you didn't come to this podcast to listen to me talk about sunburns. You came to listen to me talk about music. Maybe this week's guest brought you here. So I'm not going to waste a ton of time at the beginning. And I'll get into it and just say that, over the years that I've been doing this show, man, I have a lot of appreciation. And I know I've said it before. And for those of you who are first time listeners, welcome aboard. But I do have a lot of appreciation for people who check out the show, man. So all of you who take the time to like and subscribe or tell a friend to tell a friend, who share the shows on social media, you leave a rating and a review on either Apple or Spotify or whatever service that you use to listen to podcasts, like all those things go a long way in helping the show get out to more people. And it's been cool to see the growth incrementally year over year. Excuse me. Since I really got back into doing this puppy, more consistently since 2020, doing 3 shows a month on Tuesdays, man. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. It really means a lot. I get a chance to connect with so many cool people, man, and so many great artists. And again, like the theme of the show, March 4th, perseverance moving forward, to be able to share stories of people who are chasing their dreams and doing what they love to do, whether they're musicians, artists, colleagues and friends of mine. We all go through it, man. And even earlier today, I still struggle with kind of self-worth at times, and with my anxiety and feeling good enough, feeling worthy enough. And doing these shows is just kind of a reminder that we all go through various struggles in life, man. But you're worth it. So if nobody's told you recently, you're worth it. Stop beating yourself up. You are here for a reason. And even if you haven't discovered your purpose yet, just be good to people, be good to yourself, and good things will happen in due time. And speaking of good things happening, man, like I said, I'm excited for every guest that I have on this show, but these guys I'm really pumped about because they are from my home state of Ohio. They're from the Midwest, and anytime I can put on for somebody from the same neck of the woods that I come from, I'm really grateful for it. They are none other than Mascots. They are from Cincinnati, Ohio. They were established back in 2014. Their debut EP, Nothing to Lose, came out in 2016, and they've had several releases since then, including EPs and singles. And again, these guys have done a lot of gigs over the years, played a lot of shows. They had the opportunity to play the main stage of the Vans Warped Tour alongside bands like Beartooth Hands Like Houses and Neck Deep back in 2017 in their home city of Cincy, which we talk about. They've also played numerous shows over the years with guys like Tiny Moving Parts, Everyone Leaves, Microwave, A Story Told, A Will Away, Life Lessons, Hot Mulligan, The Weekend Classic, and numerous others. And as you guys will hear in this conversation, like a lot of bands, man, they went through it during the pandemic, during COVID, and it was a struggle, but they kept working. They made a bunch of music, and you are starting to hear that music now in 2024. They released their single "Slipping in the Dark" back on April 3rd, and they followed that up with their latest single "Vertigo," which just came out on May 8th, which is awesome. And even though they've since announced it on their Instagram, we actually recorded this back at the end of April, and they announced it on their Instagram in mid-May. But their new EP, Bad News on a Beautiful Day, is going to be hitting y'all's eardrums on June 28th, man. So it was just great to catch up with these guys, learn more about their story, how they came to be over the years. We get a little inside baseball talking about a venue called Bogarts down in Cincy, which it's crazy. It's right around 16 years, man, since I went to the show that I talk about. I think, yeah, the show that I saw Five Finger Death Punch before they blew up and became an arena band. They were opening for Disturbed, and I saw them at Bocarts with my buddies Chad and Dave. And so there's some inside baseball, Ohio, Cincinnati type stuff on this for those of you listening to other parts of the country or the world, man. But really good guys, man. We were able to get Robert and Alex specifically of Mascots, and again, man, if you love emo, if you love pop punk, if you love alternative, you'll love these guys. You might be aware of them already. Like I said, they've been around for a decade, and it was just cool to hear about, again, their origin story, how they came to be, what they've persevered through with COVID, and all the new music that they've been making. And again, to be dropping 2 new singles and a forthcoming EP that's going to be hitting your eardrums in a matter of weeks. We talk about all of it on this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Robert and Alex of Mascots. Here it is. Well, thanks again so much for joining me, man. Like I said, fellow Ohio native, so anytime I can kind of put somebody on that's doing their thing from the home state, and you guys have a rich history really over the last decade since your inception back in 2014, and the latest single is really sick, man. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, since we got 2 of you in the band, why don't you guys tell people your names and what you play in the band, and then that way when you speak, they know who's talking.
All right. I'm Robert, and I play guitar, not specific to lead or rhythm. We kind of bounce back and forth, so if we don't put a name on it, I just play guitar.
And my name's Alex. I play bass guitar.
And not with us, but here in spirit tonight is our drummer, Jacob Fox, and our other guitarist and singer, Chase Nichols.
Right on, man. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. And again, I know there's been lineup changes and stuff over the years, and I think every band was hit in some form or another because of COVID and all of the shutdowns that happened. Some venues that closed and didn't reopen, but there's a lot of bands like yourselves who have persevered through that. And again, I really love the latest single, but I kind of want to go back to the beginning a little bit for you guys, man. What was your earliest musical memory? What was the thing that bit you and got you going down the rabbit hole musically? Do you remember?
Oh gosh. Like musically with Mascots or just in general?
Just in general.
Oh gosh, in general. So for me, I really wasn't super into music at all at a certain point. I just kind of thought it was like background noise. And then my friend Grant, he showed me Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. I remember it pretty vividly when he showed it to me. It was in his mom's van. And I was like, what is this? This is awesome. And then kind of just fell down that whole rabbit hole. And yeah, here I am today.
I'd say for me, it kind of just goes back to family. I think family, there's like your first initial window into listening to music. My parents, my mom would have like a Beach Boys cassette on in the car. My dad might have like Tracy Chapman or Steve Miller Band or something, and or my brothers or my siblings, they were huge into the Smashing Pumpkins and just like 90s alternative and things like that. Matter of fact, before we hopped on here, you were just talking about Bob Seger, so I got to throw that out there too.
Love Bob Seger, man. Love the Smashing Pumpkins too. Yeah, that music from the 90s especially, I feel like is just and I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm 36 now, so it's like I'm kind of at that age where it's like you know, you get to a certain point where you think the stuff that you grew up with is the coolest, right? Like just like our parents are like, oh, life was better before the internet, you know what I mean? And in some ways it definitely was for sure. Um, but yeah, man, that music is really timeless. For me, I started with Metallica, just because like my big brother, that's what he was into, and he's 6 years older, so I wanted to be like him. But then like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, all those bands. But then yeah, like I was in fifth, sixth grade when pop punk was really like, really kind of, I don't know if I'd say it was at its apex, but when Enema of the State came out, and Blink 182 was everywhere, that kind of just like changed the game, you know what I mean? So the height of like the TRL days and all of that. So yeah, it was a good time to be a kid. How long before you guys started picking up instruments then?
Gosh. See, I started in middle school, so maybe it was like 4 years, 4 or 5 years after that. It had to be like 2007, maybe 2006.
For me, no one in my family is like musically inclined, but for some reason, we had like a family member give us this like stand up piano, like that was like up against the wall, and I would pretend I knew how to play music. And then from there, it was there's for some reason a guitar would be laying around the house, usually with a few broken strings. But I didn't really start getting into music until I was probably in late middle school. I started playing the drums, and that's what I played in bands with as an instrument all the way through high school. And then, yeah, it eventually turned into guitar there somewhere along the line.
So when you guys were getting into, I mean, obviously you guys are in like the pop punk and emo realm, but like when did you guys start to really get into that music, or what were the bands? Like Alex, you said around like junior high 2007. So was it kind of that era? Because I remember what was the Blink record that came out? Was it the self-titled record that came out in '04? I'm trying to remember all the
Yeah.
records at that time when I was in high school.
Hmm. Yeah, for me at that time, it was Blink 182. Yellow Card was huge. I listened to a lot of AFI. Yeah, Fall Out Boy, still huge then, still huge now. Yeah, bands like that for me. And Seosin, self-titled for sure.
For me, I'm a few years older than Stu, so I lounge in the Stevens Untitled Rock Show era of emo, but even like deep cut Victory records like Spitalfield, the Junior Varsity, Silverstein, But then like we find this like meeting ground with like Seosin, and a lot of other bands. Seosin's a big one. That's really the only one that's coming to mind right off the bat. But like, just that realm of it a little bit past that 05, 06, 04, mid aughts emo.
So Rob, what eventually led you to play guitar then, man, after all the years doing drums and stuff? Like what eventually piqued your curiosity to make the switcheroo, man?
Yeah, it was a love for music. I ended up I made a wild decision when I graduated high school that many people make to join the military to pay for college. Not the most fun decision for people to make, but I dove right into it, and I lucked out. I ended up being stationed in Italy, but while I was there, I couldn't bring my drums with me. I lived in a barracks, so uh, I relied heavily. I had a guitar at home that I ended up getting shipped to myself from my parents, and I just continued to play guitar then. So around like 2010, I just really dove into playing guitar all the time. And eventually that just led when I got out and I decided to go pursue college and playing in bands after the military. I wanted to start a band. I wanted to keep that passion going. So I kept playing guitar. And I had a previous band I started after I got out of the military. And then we ended up running into each other somewhere along the line after that.
Well, first, thank you for your service, man. One of my best friends is a Marine, and I have a cousin who's currently in the Navy and a grandpa who served, man. So I got a lot of respect for what you guys do, genuinely. My buddy was in Iraq in 2007 when it was 2008 when it was really kind of gnarly over there, man. And I think about me at 19 years old in college and him over there with a machine gun. It's just pretty wild when you really think about the service that people give and the sacrifice they make. So genuinely, thank you. Um, I got to ask y'all too, do you still have those first instruments? Are they still somewhere in the archives or have they since been sold or traded?
The piano ended up we ended up disposing of that. We ended up burning that instrument a lot in our like fire pit in our yard. Eventually, it was so old and decrepit already. Like my parents weren't going to get somebody to tune that thing. And then as far as guitar goes, it's right here in front of us. I have my first guitar, my electric guitar. My dad got me. That's the one that I got mailed to Italy. It's a semi-hollow body, really a jazz guitar, not made for emo or rock at all. Yet somehow I made it work. Oh. You still have yours?
Yeah, I do. It was a starter Ibanez that comes with like a little like Fender amp. And yeah, I still have it. Rarely play it, but it's in my closet still. I can't get rid of it. I don't know.
Yeah, sentimental.
Yep.
Yeah, I traded my first one when I moved here, and I kind of miss it. Um, I wish I would have hung on to it. But for you guys, man, I mean, you're talking about like getting into music and eventually meeting each other. What time was that? Because I know Mascots was established in 2014, right? So Alex and Rob, when and how did you guys eventually link up?
Uh, 2017, I think, right?
Yeah, that's definitely when I started playing with you guys. It was in 2017.
Yeah, it was in like the late. It was like January, February, maybe March of that time.
Yeah, like February, March. Like
yeah.
I jammed with them once or twice, and they were like, "Yeah, let's do this." And I was like, "Sure, I'm all in." And they were like, "Well, we got some." They didn't tell me at the time. Like, "Well, we got studio time booked in like a month, so we gotta write 2 songs for that still." And we dove right into it, and that's when the Time to Time EP was written. And we wrote Time to Time and another song called On the Fence in like a month period, and took them to the studio and hammered them out. Prior to that, we did meet because we played a show together at University Cincinnati here in town. They had some event there where the band I was in at the time, we were called Yesterday, and we ended up playing with Mascots there with a few other artists that I don't necessarily remember all the artists on that show. I just remember we did play together at that show. Although that's not where we like met and talked or anything. That was our first time meeting each other on a technicality there.
And what was the music scene like there? Because like Toledo, at the time that I was covering music for Toledo Free Press, this is around like 2011 to 2015, and it was really vibrant, man. Like it was a very collaborative local scene. Bands would go to each other's shows. I'm still really good friends. One of my best friends, Ryan from Tropic Bombs, but they would have shows at Frankie's Inner City. I know you guys have done touring and stuff. I don't know if you've ever played any gigs through there. What venues you've been to if you have, but I mean, it was a pretty cool local music scene. What was it like in Cincinnati as you guys were, Alex forming Mascots and Rob eventually meeting up? I mean, is it pretty collaborative? Is it a pretty good mix of venues? The last show I went to there was a long time ago, actually. I've got some family ties there. My sister-in-law's from there, but I went to, if it's still around, I went to Bogarts. I'm trying to remember what part of town it was in, but Bogarts, yeah. it was gnarly too. It was hot as hell in there. The floor was wet. It was a sweaty dank. It was actually Disturbed in 2008, and it was Death Punch opened for them, but that shows the birth of earplugs for me. But anyway, yeah, hot sweaty May show in Cincinnati, Ohio. But yeah, what was the local music scene like as Mascots forming in 14 and eventually you guys meeting a few years later?
Yeah. Well, for starters, Bogarts is still the same, still hot and sweaty. We're seeing Bayside there on Tuesday.
Yeah, next week. We'll be seeing Bayside.
Yeah, the scene. I think we came in at a time where I think in like 2009, 2010, 2011, there was kind of like a bigger, at least like metalcore scene. At least that's from what I saw, or it's how I experienced it. And then we came in, pop punk wise, there weren't really a lot of pop punk emo bands, I would say, at that time. There were like there were maybe like a core four or five. But compared to now, I mean, there's so many more bands. But also maybe we've been here a lot longer, so now we're keeping track of who's around compared to when we first started. I don't know, how was it for you, Rob?
For me in 2014, the group of people I was running around with, they were all pretty collaborative artists. Like they're Stew the Funnies is their band name. I'm just going to name drop. But like the singer of that band, Jimmy Klepper, the guitarist Thomas, they're all really awesome. Awesome people. They ended up, they collaborate with Nolan Taylor. If you're familiar with him, he's like a folk artist. He's doing pretty well right now. Prior to that, though, like I didn't really have too much of a grasp on the Cincinnati music scene because, like I said before, like I was gone for like a 4-year gap. But before that, it's exactly what Stu alluded to, or Alex alluded to, which is like it was a metalcore scene. And in high school, I did not play in a metalcore band. I played like in a power pop band, and I wish our recording still existed out there in the world, and I could find that one for you. But it was not abnormal to play with metalcore bands as a power pop band, and you're doing genre mixing at shows. Like, I mean, we played with Black Veil Brides before they were still a local band, and then we all know how much they've probably blown up over the years. So it's just a weird time from 06 to now. But I had a gap there where I was disconnected from a lot of the scene here.
That's cool though. I think it's cool when genres mix, you know what I mean? And it's not like the metalcore bands versus the pop punk bands and stuff. Um, One thing I want to ask you, are some of those early venues still around, or who are some of like the early promoters or local people in the scenes that put on shows for you guys that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. Rest in peace to the Mad Hatter. That was in Covington, Kentucky, 620 Scott Street. The owner of that venue, Frank Huefeld, and then he runs a venue now here in town called Madison Live, Madison Theater. Also a good venue. There's the Thompson House, which initially was called Southgate House, but they sold it. Somebody bought that and called it the Thompson House. Southgate House's crew, they bought this like old church and turned it into probably my favorite venue to play at here in Cincinnati, and it's called Southgate House Revival. So they have a room called the Sanctuary, and that's the big main room in the church. But then they have an upstairs where there's it's called the Revival Room, and that's where there's a stage up there. That's really fun to play on. It's a smaller room, but if you can put in 100 to 100, and I don't even know if it's 150 cap, but if you can get 150 people in there, it feels like there's 400 people in there, and it's really small. And then they have like a general bar room that there's always somebody playing in like 7 nights a week too. Live music all the time. Outside of that, I could keep going. Northside Tavern is another cool venue. So if somebody's not from Cincinnati listening to this, Northside Tavern's a really good spot. Another up and coming venue I would say is Design Collective. Super cool venue. Lots of hardcore punk, indie, pop punk, you name it, they're bringing it in. If you're hungry to play, that venue is down to collaborate with most bands. So just be respectful, be inclusive, and don't be an a-hole. And they're an awesome venue.
Hell yeah, man. Is McGuffey's in Dayton still around? I bet. Have you guys ever played there? Are you familiar with McGuffey's?
No, I'm familiar with there's Blind Bob's. There used to be the Attic in Kettering. That's not there anymore. R.I.P. I think that's it. I think it's called Yellow Cab Tavern or something like that. Yellow Side Tavern. But yeah, McGuffey's. No, I don't think that's there anymore. As far as
Yeah,
I know. As far as I
it's been some years. Yeah, I think that show I went to was 2000. It was 2010. But just with the Ohio Connects, man, have you played any shows in Toledo? I know people who listen to this who know me are probably gonna be like, "Oh God, here goes Mike talking about Toledo," but I'll always rep for my home city. But you guys ever played any gigs up there over the years?
So we haven't played Toledo. We haven't been to Frankie's Inner City. But we've played at Howard's Tavern in Bowling Green. That's about the closest we've gotten to Toledo. But we've played like Mahal's in Cleveland or Lakewood, Ohio. We've played Donato's Basement in Columbus. So yeah, we're trying to make our way to Toledo. I think it'd be fun.
And not in this group, but our drummer, he's very fond of playing the Grog Shop in Cleveland. So he'll talk about that to you if you ever talk to him about it. Yeah, Grog Shop. Shout out to the Grog Shop. R.I.P. there. I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah, if you guys ever get to T-Town, shout out to Zach Jacobs. He runs the Ottawa Tavern, and they've been putting on a lot of really cool shows there, over on Adams Street. Frankie's is reopened, and it's kind of on like a, I don't know if I'd say like a limited basis. I don't think, but they're not doing as many shows. Like I think the former promotion company that owned it, Innovation Concerts. I don't know if it exists in like the same form anymore, but they've redone the inside and like, reopened it. I actually saw my buddies in Tropic Bombs there last year. So, but it's a cool venue. You mentioned the Smashing Pumpkins. One of the coolest things about it is it's this cool little hole in the wall place, but it's got so much history. Like everybody played there back in the day. It's crazy, man. From like the Smashing Pumpkins to like PLD and Local H, like all these different bands over the years, man, like the Goo Goo Dolls, like um but it's a cool venue, man. It's a cool vibe. So yeah, I hope you can get through the hometown. But transitioning back to just mascots, man, like over the years, there's been multiple EPs. I really love Goodbye and Butterfly Effect, those songs. I love Slipping in the Dark as well. The new one is it's really great. The way the chorus transitions in, and and even reading the meaning of the song, some of the stuff that Johnny sent me about how it's about becoming vulnerable enough to embrace the challenge and change of instability. You know, again, as a guy who struggles with like anxiety, and I moved to Nashville when I was 27, didn't really know anybody, so change is always hard. But what's that process been like? And again, I know maybe this sounds like a little bit of a loaded question, but just listening to y'all's music, man, I feel like you guys have carved out your own niche in terms of like the emo sound with all the different influences that you have. And there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about, but what's that process been like, just carving out your sound over the course of time and getting to the place that you are now, even with multiple lineups and just surviving COVID and that whole thing too.
Yeah, it's been a long, crazy road. Because we're coming up. So technically, August is when late August, early September of 2014 is when we had like our first like practice um, for mascots. So it's kind of wild that 10 years has flown by. It feels like it's long, but it also feels like it's been really short too. and gone through just a lot of lineup changes to see friends, kind of come and go. But also like just the music that we've created along that way, and some of the cool things that we've gotten to do amongst that time is pretty wild. Just thinking back, and I think we're maybe at our strongest we've ever been, writing wise, and definitely like the biggest mix of influences. Just comparing like just the four of us compared to like Jacob's influence in music and your influence in music and mine and Chase's, like four completely different worlds, but we all kind of have these other like bands that we all like to listen to that kind of bring us together. But when you bring those four different worlds together, it kind of helps make our new sound the way that it is. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Stu, to piggyback on what he said, like coming and going, I'm a participant in the coming and going of the band. We talked earlier, I was in the band in 2017, and then at one point I hit a rut, and I was like, I gotta get some shit together. Oh, sorry, I gotta get some stuff together, and I gotta bounce out for a bit, and I took a gap where I just didn't play music for a while. I still played on my own terms, just writing riffs or just whatever. But once the pandemic hit, I was already they have a rehearsal space at the time, and I was already just lingering around them, and I starved everyone else out, and I ate ramen the longest, and now I get to play guitar with these other three talented musicians. So in parts of the coming and going,
You did play drums for a little bit.
I did play drums for a tiny pinch. It was on the radar, and just as quickly as I started playing drums, we found Jacob. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, if you don't mind me asking, can you? I mean, you don't have to go into anything personal. That I'm not gonna. This isn't a gotcha podcast or try to, unearth things that are uncomfortable or bring you back to a dark place. But on the positive side, I mean, when you mentioned stepping away for a bit, what ultimately, anything that you would want to share for somebody out there who's struggling that got you through it to get back into music and that positive headspace as far as being with Mascots again?
Yeah, I think relying on not just yourself, it's okay to rely on people around you, and you have to open yourself up to that. I feel like when we find ourselves in tough places, and including myself in that situation, you sometimes recluse, or you don't want to talk about it, or you do anything to avoid it, really. And in my particular situation, eventually you just got to start talking to people. I think that just talking, and you don't have to talk to anybody. I mean, but like find someone to talk to, and just get stuff off your chest. I think once you start getting things off your chest, you'll start to realize, like, okay, oh, I'm not going crazy. I'm experiencing normal things that everybody else faces, and then from there you can decide yourself. Still, it's no one's making anybody go to therapy or, do anything drastic, but like, it's, okay, maybe I could benefit to therapy. But like the first step isn't just like hopping into therapy and you're like, oh, they're going to fix me. No, you gotta take that first step for yourself and diving into that. And that's a really tough step to make, but that's a big one. That was a big factor at the time. Just talking to somebody.
Well said, man. And for you, once you got back into Mascots, I mean, how rejuvenating did it feel after that dark period? I mean, what was making music like at that time after going through that transition?
Yeah, when I came back into Mascots, it was fresh into the pandemic. So it's kind of funny, at this like low time, everyone was kind of sad in the world, but like we broke some rules. We practiced in a room together and didn't wear masks. We took that risk, but it was a risk worth taking, because I think at the time I was already separating myself from like family. Not that I didn't like talk to them or anything, but like I just mean like not seeing people as much in person. And it was like, okay, I'm working my job. I'm living in my apartment alone. I can spend 2 or 3 days a week playing music, or I could not talk to anybody and see my parents like once every 3 weeks. It was like that at one point in time during the pandemic. And I just, and my parents were super accepting. They've always been supportive of my art and music, and just going buck wild with that. So, they were everything and accepting about that. So we played in a room the entire time, and that was the best thing I think I could have done. I don't know about the band or everybody else, but for me personally, I feel that way. We hit a creative stride. We wrote like 40 songs in a year because we got together 2-3 times a week. If I had nothing else going on that day, which was the usual, I would go up to our rehearsal space and just play music for hours, just writing. And it didn't get boring. It was like finding that joy all over again in a really weird way.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, and did you guys feel like, I don't know, it was such a weird time, like even getting like in a good way, I think it made people kind of refocus on what's really important to them, who's in your circle, what do you enjoy, what do you want your life to look like? Because there was so much uncertainty, there was so much weirdness, right? Like for me, it ended up being great because I was bouncing off of 4 walls in my apartment, just working from home, you know what I mean? The beard was gnarly, the hair was gnarly, and I was like, well, um, there's no better time than now to get back into the podcast because I kind of done it part and parcel, like I said, in my 20s. I had some early momentum with it, back before they were in vogue. I started it way back in 2012. Um, if only I'd have stuck with it, fellas, in my 20s. No, it's all good. Can't look back. Um, but uh, but yeah, it kind of refueled me to do this, and it ended up being kind of one of the best things in a weird way that happened to me. But did you guys find that your appreciation for music was even more just because it's like you said, jamming in a room together? It's like there's so many people who are isolated, and just I feel like being able to have that creative outlet had to been a good release in such a crazy period.
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely a closeness that the four of us got during that time. And I mean, we just kind of met Jacob during that time too. So it was, because we three, Chase, Rob, and I have known each other for since 2017. I knew Chase before that too, but had adding somebody new and kind of learning about Jacob and how his writings and everything like that works. But yeah, we all kind of just grew during that time, and yeah, we wrote a crap ton of songs. Yeah, there was definitely like a bond that happened during that crazy weird time. So yeah, I think our appreciation for music and like our bond as the band as a band family grew during that time too.
Was Slipping in the Dark one of those that was birthed out of that time?
Um,
It was actually, I think there were an accumulation of riffs that were shared during that time, but the song itself didn't get really well. That's depends on what era of the pandemic, I guess. I would say 2022 is when we one night we were just in our space, and um because like we just jam. Sometimes we'll get in a jam and we'll jam for like 40 minutes on the same 3-minute part, or uh one maybe a 30-second riff, and we're just taking it out 10 minutes. How many renditions, how many different ways can we play it? Should we speed it up? Should we slow it down? Should we reverse it? Can we flip it and reverse it? I don't know. We did have a rendition of the song, and then we recorded it on an iPhone, and we upload it. We have a drive together that we upload all of our ramblings to, and and it stayed in there for about 6 months. And I don't know who brought it up that we should just revisit that, but somewhere along the line we did bring it back at the beginning of last year, and we were like, let's revisit that. There was something there. And we hooked on it for like a month, and then we demoed it out on officially on like a little tracking system we've got. And eventually it turned into what came out of the studio at ABG with Seth Henderson.
Well, it turned out great, and like I said,
I'm sorry.
oh no, no, dude, that's what this is for, man. Do not apologize. That's one of my things. I say I'm sorry all the time, and yeah, I gotta stop saying sorry. No, it's good, man. I this is what these podcasts are for, and again, I really appreciate you dudes taking the time because I'm a fan of what you're doing, man. And I guess that's a good segue because I know Seth has been a big part, I'm sure, of formulating your sound, and I know he's worked with numerous bands. Is it Always Be Genius recording studio where he is? How did you guys link up with him, and just how big of a part has he been in the band and the formation of your sound over the years?
Yeah, it was. So we recorded our first EP, Nothing to Lose. We recorded that here in town, and there was a band that I really, really liked. They're called Life Lessons. They're not around anymore. They're from Oklahoma, but I was just checking out, like, oh, their recordings are so crisp, and they're not even this like huge band. Like, where did they even go like to record? And it on their, I think it was their Bandcamp, it said that they recorded with Seth Henderson at Always Be Genius. So I like Googled Seth. This was back in 2016. And yeah, it's like, oh, Knuckle Puck recorded with him. Real Friends recorded with him. So I'm like, oh shit, I love these bands. And so I just hit up Seth. I was like, hey, I'm just reaching out. Is there any way that, we just could we work with you on these new songs that we're working on? How much, would that cost? How can we get connected? And I didn't really think that we had any chance of doing that, because back then I was like, oh, this guy is probably way too busy to work with us. But lo and behold, he works, with bands of all different levels. And yeah, I think he's been very integral as maybe like a secret member of sorts, because he just provides his years of experience, and just his, his taste and talent, in helping kind of finalize a song that we've been working on. So yeah, he's been very important, and he also creates a really great environment to do that. I've heard horror stories of bands going to certain producers, and just not rubbing the right way with them. But yeah, Seth has always been super chill, easy to work with. Sometimes people from other bands show up, which is really cool. And yeah, he's been great. Highly recommend.
He's very meticulous and how he works with the band. He's very efficient, and he's very no nonsense when it comes to writing your part. If you're out of key, if you're out of tune, if your part just isn't meshing, he'll give the constructive criticism to help you build a better part. Maybe you're still rooting off that initial idea, but he has a way of really crafting things around those ideas to bring them to life. And that's what I really enjoyed working with him with him.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't waste your time if you're in there, because sometimes there's some, if you go to certain recording studios where it's maybe they're charging you by the time, and you kind of feel like, oh, if we're stuck on this part, our money's kind of going down the drain,
like red light syndrome.
Yeah.
We're recording right now, and then next thing you know, the AC's not working, you're sweating, you're like, oh, what's going on? And you feel more delirious by the minute. It gets stressful, and he has a way of making it comfortable while recording too.
Yeah.
Not hot and sweaty like Bogarts.
Not hot and
Not
sweaty
at
like
all. Better sound too.
Hey, by the way, if anybody from Bogarts listening, or whoever owns the place, listen, I had a great time. It was a great show. It was the birth of Earplugs, which had nothing to do with the venue and just how loud and crazy of a show it was. But that was also the last show I was on the floor, and I'm not even afraid to say that. I was young. I RIP to the pit for me at 20 years old. It was too much. It was way too much. From there, it was mezzanine or a wall where I had some leverage. Being in the middle is you're in no man's land out there.
It's a great venue. I mean, I go there maybe at least once a month. Yeah, I've no gripes about it at all. Definitely have seen the most shows I've ever been to has always been at Bogarts, I think, over the years.
Likewise, Bogarts, if you're listening, we love Live Nation. Could do no harm. No, like Bogarts is a quintessential Cincinnati music scene. They bring in local shows. They'll have other artists like, it's hard to find a band like Bayside or Taking Back Sunday rolling through here nowadays without knowing the fact that they played Bogarts. I mean, even the U's, they're playing there in June.
Pretty sure, yeah. And I'm pretty sure Adam Lazera has a Bogarts shirt.
Does he?
As well. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
From Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah. Brand New's played there. Prince. Yeah, they have like a wall. I don't know if they had all the bricks when you were there, but like everybody that just has played there over the years, like a wall of fame. If you sell out the venue, they put your name on a brick.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's making me feel old talking about it because I'm like, damn, it was literally like half my life ago now. That was 2008. I think Live Nation might have just taken it over right around that time because I think I tried to look up like the history of it. It's been in Cincy forever. I think it was it's an old theater or like old German theater or something. I remember trying to look up the history a little bit of it, but yeah, it didn't help too that it had rained and it was like early May in Cincinnati, you know what I mean? And the climate there is not too different from Toledo. I mean, we get the lake effect snow and stuff obviously in the winter, but the summers are hot and humid. Nashville's insane. Not that I want to bore people with weather talk, but no, it was a good time. But it was just yeah, it was the birth of me going, if I can get a seat, which you really can't there, at least at the time, they just had like that small kind of like upper level, the bar in the way back and just that
Still
big wooden floor. Yeah, yeah. But it's fun though, man. I'm glad that they get all those shows there. What I was it is it like north-ish of downtown? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember.
it's on a street here called Short Vine, and there's a bunch of like college bars, like right across the street. There's like, at least nowadays, there's a bunch of college bars. I'm sure there was back then, and a pizzeria and just like random stuff everywhere. It's still pretty much the same as you're describing it. I don't think the interior has changed outside of the fact they probably upgraded their sound system. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love it when old places like that stick around, man. Well, dudes, I won't keep you for too much longer, but this has been fun, and again, I really loved how the new single turned out. But just to turn the clock back a little bit, 2017 feels like it was a pretty cool year for y'all with Time to Time coming out, and didn't Good and Me also come out in 2017? Am I getting that right? And then you guys also won the opportunity to play the main stage at Warp Tour. What was that like, man?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, that was surreal. With everyone, even to this day, we're all working day jobs. So, even back then, I was working at a warehouse and I worked till like 3 a.m. and I got off work and I could not sleep. I was like, all right, I'm playing Warped Tour today. No way am I sleeping. And I didn't. And we got there. We were told to get there pretty early in the day and do a check-in. Then you had to go sit in this like random parking lot. Like we pull up next to another, I don't even remember the band, but they were just like, they had their doors open and then like a makeshift shower curtain and they're just showering with a jug of water and just like doing the best they can. And then just having that experience, like you're seeing other bands just day in day out. That's what they're doing. They're putting in the miles. Warped Tour was definitely not for the faint of heart. You had to put yourself 150% into it every day, and even just getting a taste for that one day, you respect the crew, the crews of Warped Tour, from the sound guy to the truck drivers to everybody putting that event on. They are 110% the greatest people you ever work with. So that was my experience.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah, it was a crazy time. Yeah, I remember getting the email, reading the email for whenever we were like, oh, you've congratulations. It was wild. But yeah, I still remember just the feeling of the kick drum like pumping through your chest on the stage. That was a wild time. And where our venue is, I don't know if you've ever been to Riverbend in Cincinnati, but it took place at Riverbend Music Center, and then next door is Coney Island. So there's like amusement park rides and like a water park that's there too. But you just kind of like I remember looking out, and you can kind of just see all of that from the stage that we were on. And yeah, it was so surreal. Definitely felt like fulfillment in that you were chasing your dreams, and it's like, oh, it can actually happen, you know. Um, and yeah, just getting to see all the crazy bands that also played that same stage that we got to play on in the beginning of the day, like Beartooth, Neck Deep, Pains Like Houses,
Dance.
Gavin Dance. I think Save Ferris played that same
Yeah.
stage.
Andy Black.
Andy Black from Black Veil Brides. Yep. Yeah, it was just a wild time. I still have like the little Warp Tour map that had our name on like the schedule. I think still have my wristband too or something like that. Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy time. And I miss Warp Tour a lot.
Yeah, I miss Warped Tour.
How did the opportunity come about?
So Warp Tour had this contest every year where each location had like a contest where if you get the most amount of votes that you get to play that main stage, so you get to open it for the day. And yeah, we happened to win the one for Cincinnati, which was we're very thankful that we got to win that and get to be on that opportunity. Pretty crazy that still even happened.
How many songs in before you felt like you weren't just like floating up there? Did it take a little bit to like actually sink in, or was it just kind of a blur from like start to finish?
It was a blur for me from start to finish, but that's pretty much every show we play. I feel like that's the only like when we're playing a show, that's one of the few times in any point of my life, that I can think about. Like when we're playing, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking about playing, and it's I'm not trying to romanticize it. It's just the truth. It's really euphoric, and I'm not thinking about like, dang, I got to work tomorrow, or oh, these bills I got to pay, or anything like that. It's like, all right, what song are we playing next?
Mm-hmm.
And with our drummer Jacob and Chase and Stu, we've really, because we jammed for so long during the pandemic, we've gotten to a stride of like improvising between songs, and that's something that we've really embraced as a band. So now it's even fun on stage of like, oh, we're improvising, and you're more engaged that way. So I'm definitely not thinking about anything externally. I'm just focused on what we're doing in the moment, and it helps to be present like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can only and by the way, that was it's very kind of you guys to apologize for swearing. It's very Midwest of us. I miss the Midwest politeness, but it's totally okay if you swear. It's all good. But but yeah, I can only imagine though too. I mean, just from our conversation, hearing you guys talk about how you got into music, and then when you really started to take it serious in the bands that you were getting into, like in the early aughts and the mid aughts and stuff, and Warp Tour obviously being like the pinnacle for all of those bands, like to be able to do that in your hometown is really sick. I can't imagine. I've never been to Riverbend. I've never seen a show. It used to be US Bank Arena, right there on the river. I don't know what it's called now, right next to the baseball stadium. Um, but is Riverbend close by that, or how far away from it is it from like downtown? Because that's always like where the outdoor festivals are. I feel like whenever they come through Cincinnati, whenever I see bands, it's always Riverbend. If it's like if they're doing like the amphitheater type tours and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like ten minutes from downtown, roughly. It's not too far.
It's right on the river.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys have played shows with a bunch of awesome bands. I mean, some of the ones I wrote down, Hot Mulligan, The Moving Parts, like um who's some over the years that I mean, obviously I'm not going to ask like who sucked, man, and hopefully they hopefully everybody was cool, but what have been some memorable shows for you guys over the course of time, man, with all the bands that you've shared the stage with? I mean, you mentioned the Warped Tour experience, but there's a lot of awesome bands that you guys have played with, man.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites is Hot Mulligan. That was at Donato's Basement in Columbus. Yeah, it was Hot Mulligan, and then a band that's not around anymore called Kayak Jones, and then there was a couple other bands um, that played on that too. But yeah, just to see them play from a basement of a Donato's, essentially Donato's Pizza, to playing Madison Square Garden with Fall Out Boy and Jimmy Eat World, a sold out show at Madison Square Garden, pretty wild. Yeah, that was really fun. A band I mentioned earlier called Life Lessons, who I was like super in love with back in like 2016, 2017. Got to actually be really close with them, and we played played a house show with them, and just maybe one of the sketchiest parts of Cincinnati. But I also got to play a few other shows with them, and always getting to hang out with them was really cool. Because it's just like, oh, I became friends with one of my favorite bands. It was kind of wild. Um, but yeah, playing with Time Moving Parts and Microwave, that was really cool too. Um,
Yeah, for me, like in high school, I had the opportunity to play the Long Hair Don't Care tour Cincinnati date, and it was We the Kings, Sing It Loud, The Cab, Charlotte Sometimes. My goodness, I got it. Valencia, and so that one was a really fun show. Sing It Loud they were from Minneapolis, and their record was done by Justin Pierre for Motion City at the time, and and it was like, oh, they're a smaller band, like you can actually make these things happen, but it is kind of funny. Like you ask any band, like, so how did you start doing this? Like, I just started doing it, and you're like, I don't get it, and eventually it clicks. You're like, oh, you really do just got to start doing it. There's no recipe, there's no path. Everyone's just out here making it up as they go. So, but like playing old shows, those were fun. My most favorite had to be playing with Mascots at University of Cincinnati.
yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, man. Well, like I said, I'm a fan of what you guys are doing. Again, the ones that stick out to me in your catalog over the years that I wrote down. I mean, like I said, love the new one, but Goodbye, Butterfly Effect, Growing Old. Um, it's just cool, man. It's cool to see a band stand the test of time, and also at a really awesome time. I feel like for emo and pop punk. Like I was telling you guys at the jump, like I remember when Enema of the State came out, and just that kind of like that turn of the century into the new millennium, and just Blink being everywhere. And then when I was in high school, I remember I think first time I heard Fall Out Boy was actually, it was probably my senior year. It was probably like '06. I was maybe a little late to the party, right around the time they were starting to break, but probably just because I was more of a, it more into like metal and the, heavy stuff. But yeah, it's been cool to see kind of this resurgence. What's that been like for you guys to see, pop punk and emo and all these new fans that have gotten into it? I feel like both pop punk. It's kind of funny, like pop punk and new metal. I feel like when I was in like sixth, seventh grade, those were like the two biggest, like Blink and Corn were two of the biggest bands on the planet. Two of probably the two poster childs for those genres. I don't know if they like the genre and subgenre names, but they, for better or worse, right? Bands like Linkin Park, and Corn and Limp Bizkit, for new metal, and um, now I feel like over the last 3, 4 years or so, both of those are kind of coming back into the mainstream again, and you see kids now that are 11, 12, 13 getting into bands that were breaking when we were younger. What's it been like just in like the emo and alternative pop punk realm to see kind of this renewed interest in it? Not that it was ever dormant or that it ever went away, right? But just I feel like Blink now is as big as they've ever been. Has it been fun to be part of that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun to be a part of that and to see it grow. I think the help of social media, as it is today, has helped younger generations, but also just everybody in general find either new music or new artists, um, and just new genres and new bands to listen to and fall in love with. And it's definitely helped. There's like the whole nostalgia part of, like when it comes to like the older emo um, side of things, that people, those bands have grown because of that little bit of that like wave. But it's cool to see just newer bands can become so much more popular in today's world and reach a wider audience. And it's just really, really cool to see and to be a part of that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. It makes it so much more easier to stay connected, and then due to that fact, you're able to weigh nostalgia in there, which isn't something that I think we try to rely on too much. I think we're trying to forge our own path here with what we're currently working on, and I don't know, like we love emo. We say it's emo. Emo rock is what we would put our subgenre in, or we're a jazz band. We also like to call ourselves jazz. I think. Uh, 80 years in nursing homes. We're all going to be 80 years old. And like older people now, they're like, what was jazz? Like, what is jazz? And they argue who's jazz, what's jazz. We're going to be doing that with emo in a good 50 years. But with everything going on, I think, that's definitely a big play. Social media helps so much for us all to stay connected of what's hip or what's cool or like just finding something that's like what I like, or what you might like. Um, so that's, yeah, I don't have much to add what you said.
I think it's helping more kids and just people in general go out to shows. There's so many bands that are blowing up today because of it, and there's bands like Deftones. I think they're bigger than they've ever been, just because there's such a there's a younger crowd that have gotten into them. And yeah, it's just so many different ways for. I mean, you could think of like Basement. For instance, they have a song that's super popular on TikTok. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like whenever they were around, they were a popular band, but now they don't play as many shows. But because of that, they're like technically bigger than they've ever been before. Same with Super Heaven, for sure.
Yeah,
with their song "Youngest Daughter," like maybe they weren't as popular when they were more active, like, but now it like, yeah, you never know, something like that overnight can just blow up and change.
And then like
lives.
the singer of Super Heaven, he has a project called Webbed Wing, and it's like or Webbed Ring. I don't know.
Webbed Wing.
Webbed Ring, Webbed Wing. But I mean, I'm sure that popularity on TikTok or Instagram, where somebody just keeps playing their songs over, I don't know, any situation, it's like it helps people divert even to that project, I'm sure. So it pays dividends on dividends to have social media and be interactive with that and benefit off of it.
For sure.
Yeah, it's funny you guys mentioned Super Heaven, man, because yeah, I love like shoegazy stuff too, and Alex, you're talking about Deftones. Like I think the genre blending too has pulled people in, right? Like Chino did a song with Trippie Redd, Geronimo, and like um it's you mentioned like Super Heaven, like I went down a wormhole with them a couple years ago, and then got into this band Mood Ring, and like
Yeah,
um
right.
yeah. It's cool, man. It's cool to see people getting put on to new music, and it's weird. I feel like one of the biggest operative words in everybody's existence now is algorithm, right? From our phones to social media to TikTok, and it's so weird how something catches and then all of a sudden it's like it's everywhere. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see, multiple generations kind of listening to the same stuff. Because like to this day, I could put something on and my parents would be like, "Oh, I don't know about that." You know what I mean? But now I feel like it's like you could have somebody who's like mid 30s like me, and they might have a 10 or 12-year-old, and they could both be listening to Blink, which I think is cool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, before we officially wrap it up, dudes, thank you again so much for taking the time. It's really been awesome chatting with you. Really excited. You mentioned having like 40 songs that you guys were writing in the the COVID sessions, we'll call them. So you've got this one out the gate. It came out, I think, what, April 3rd, Slipping in the Dark. Obviously, I don't want to, spill anything that you don't want to spill. I enjoyed the music video too. Where did you guys film that, by the way? Sorry, my brain is kind of like a ping pong ball sometimes, but that was a cool, it was well done. It was cool.
Yeah, that was shot by Phantom Limb Media by a guy that owns that. His name's Danny Council. Super talented artist. He works really well with bands. He shot some other music videos with other artists in the region of Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, you name it, from metal to pop punk to pop music. He's doing his thing, and we ended up finding that location off of
Peerspace. I think.
Peerspace is what we use. There's a guy named Tyler that owns that space. He also does music videos himself, but he has that space that he rents out for other people to use. I think like on his social media posts, I mean, somebody did their own, they ended up like finishing their night off with somebody getting like proposed to in that room not too long ago. Like, he uses that space or rents it out for anybody to use for however they wish. And we lucked out into having that really cool space. And then, I can go ahead and go to the rest of it unless you want to get the second half of that question.
Sorry, I'm blanking. Also, as a fun fact, that's where the first oven with a glass window was manufactured.
Yeah,
in that building. But
the first oven with a glass window.
Yeah, that's a random fact. But yeah, we have a new song coming out in a few weeks, so please stay tuned for that. We're excited to release it.
That one will be called Vertigo. And I mean, can we now?
Yeah.
EP. We do have an EP coming out. It'll be coming out at the last week of June. I think June 29th.
Something like that.
Something like that. The last Friday of June, we plan to release our EP. It'll be called Bad News on a Beautiful Day. So look out for that if you're listening to this podcast, and thank you so much, Mike, for having us on to even give that a shout out as well. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys sharing that with me. And by the time this comes out and it hits people's ears, it'll be like early June-ish. So I think the timing is perfect, man. Well, Alex, Rob, this has been a lot of fun. I don't want to chew your guys' ears off anymore, other than to say, I think it's cool that the band has stood the test of time and, persevered through lineup changes. And again, the music that you guys are cranking out, the work you've done with Seth, the cool shows you've gotten to play, Warped Tour. I mean, those are some really cool feathers in the cap, man. And just with the theme of this show, I'll get you out of here on this of perseverance and moving forward. And I know, Rob, you've already touched on it a little bit with your experience coming back into Mascots, but whether people are creatives or not, as a band that's been around almost exactly 10 years now and has gone through what you guys have gone through and played the shows that you've had and put out the music you've had, what advice would you give to somebody out there who's maybe on the cusp of chasing their dreams, maybe they're on the verge of kind of giving up on something or just starting something? What's been sort of central for each one of you guys in staying on the path, man?
Yeah. Change can be scary, but change can also be good. So just stick with it, I think.
There's always going to be doubt, I think, no matter what situation you're in, even if you have a perfectly healthy brain and you're kicking ass in life. But even when you don't have those perfect situations, you got to learn to ignore that doubt and jump into what you're passionate about, whether it's, you want to start a business, you want to apply for that mortgage or loan, or you want to go for that job, or you want to quit that job. Like, it's not always about going for something. Maybe it's that you need to stop doing something. And it's okay. And I think it's like learning to accept your own decisions and getting more of a grasp on your own fate. And I think that's people should choose what is in their heart at the end of the day. Don't have a facade about things.
As well said. Well, Alex, Rob, thank you again so much, dudes, for taking the time to do this. It's been fun talking with you. You're welcome back anytime on the show. One day when I get that Joe Rogan money, you'll be in my official studio. You won't be remote as I sit in my dining room with socks over my pull-up bar behind me. I probably should get a better background, right? If I start doing video, that's probably not the greatest. MJ's right there, though, so that's cool.
I like it. I like it. It builds character.
Well, for people who are unaware of mascots, and shame on you if you're not. No, I'm just kidding. But if you are unaware of mascots and maybe you're new to emo and you're new to Midwest emo, let them know where they can find you. I'll have the links in the podcast description, but let them know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, you can find us. Anywhere you stream music, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it. All of our socials can be found at Mascots OH as in Ohio. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it. You can find us there.
Sweet. Well, thanks again, you guys. I really appreciate the time, especially being an hour ahead. And again, man, anytime I can put on for anybody from Ohio, man, we got to stay strong out here. So we've got rich music history and we got to let people know. But thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Keep in touch. And Alex, thanks again too, man, for the correspondence and the communication. Johnny's a good dude, man. He's been a big supporter of the show, so it's good to connect with good people out here. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. You have a great rest of your week.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Robert and Alex of Mascots out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Make sure you go follow these guys on Instagram at MascotsOH. The links to all of their stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support Mascots. I'm a goofball, you guys. You will not be disappointed. Once again, if you're new to these guys, if you love emo, if you love pop punk, if you love alternative, you will love everything they're doing. For those of you diehards that already know about Mascots, you're like, Mikey, we already know. I know, I'm just sharing it for the people who are new, okay? Once again, like I said in the intro, their new EP, Bad News on a Beautiful Day, comes out on June 28th. That's an awesome name for a release. And you can go check out Slipping in the Dark and Vertigo right now, wherever you get your music, guys. So once again, I just want to say thank you to Robert and Alex, you guys, for giving me about an hour of your time. I truly appreciate it. It was great to learn more about y'all. And, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. It's not easy being a band, certainly not easy being a band going through COVID and the changes in the music industry. It's crazy that was 4 years ago when all of that was popping off. It's just time is such a trippy thing. I was just talking about that with one of my brothers earlier today. I digress, but to see you dudes persevere, make the new music that you've been making, and all of the shows that you've played over the years, the music that you've worked on with Seth Henderson. It's just really cool to see you guys still doing your thing and still cranking out the hits for people, man, because I'm a big fan of the new ones. And again, for those of you who are new here, I also love Butterfly Effect, Goodbye. Go check out their previous EPs, man. Nothing to Lose, The Good in Me, Time to Time. They're all awesome, as well as their other singles, man. But thank you guys again so much, Robert and Alex, for coming on and doing the podcast. Again, it's always cool whenever I get a chance to showcase somebody from my home state, not just the Midwest, but from Ohio, man. And Ohio's got a lot of rich music history, man, from pop punk and emo to metalcore. It's cool. It's to see the Midwest emo stuff, even on Instagram, man, it makes me smile. But you guys are really talented and really down to earth. And again, it's just awesome to see somebody from the Midwest chasing their dreams. And it was cool for you guys to give me some of your time and to talk to me about what it was like playing Warped Tour and everything that you've been working on, man. So thanks again so much for coming by to show. Once again, everybody, go follow them at MascotsOH on Instagram. All the links are in the podcast description for this episode. And once again, I hate begging for this stuff, but if you did like what you heard, man, please tell a friend to tell a friend, like and subscribe, share it when it comes out, leave a rating and a review. If you use Apple, if you use Spotify, those are the two main streaming services, but there's Amazon Music, iHeart, Podbean, which is the host site. They're really dope. If you want to start your own podcast, pretty much all the major places you get your podcast. I mean, you're listening to it right now, so you found it somehow, but anything you can do to share it or like or subscribe, those things go a long way in helping this conversation get out to more people. And that's ultimately what I want, man. So for people who aren't familiar with Mascots, again, it's just it's really cool to see the kind of resurgence that we've seen with pop punk and with emo, and even with all the things going on in metal right now, and kind of the resurgence of new metal. Like it's a really awesome time for music, especially a lot of the stuff that I enjoy, man. Because even though heavy music is definitely my favorite stuff, and the wheelhouse that I've been in for a long time since I was a little guy, I'm a big fan of alternative and emo and pop punk too, man. There's just a lot of really awesome things going on in music right now, and Mascots is a part of it. So once again, keep your eye out for Bad News on a Beautiful Day on June 28th. Go run up the numbers on Vertigo and Slipping in the Dark, which are out now, and go follow Mascots. And on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. Once again, you guys, I really appreciate everybody checking out the show. And if this is your first time aboard the pirate ship, welcome aboard. I hope that you listen to more episodes in the future, because that would be awesome. But I really try to mix it up, between pop punk, alternative, metal, country, hip hop, people outside of music, man, who just have inspiring stories about persevering and moving forward. So if you like positive content, if you're tired of all the negativity and the vitriol of social media, the news cycle, the upcoming election, and we're just getting that started, right? Like, none of that you're going to find here. We just keep it pos over here, man. We keep it positive, and we go to dark places, but it's only done because we all go through darkness to get to the light, man. Not to sound cheesy. So I really try to pride myself in putting content out there that registers with people, whether they're up, whether they're down, whether they're kind of fair to middling. When you share stories about bands like Mascots who have been at it for a decade and have gotten a lot of shows under their belt, gotten a lot of music under their belt, and are chasing their dreams and making stuff happen and connecting with people in a positive way through their music, I really hope it inspires you to go chase whatever dreams you have, man. So if you enjoy the content, stick around because there's more fun stuff coming. That's going to be a wrap. Keep the faith and be kind to one another, courtesy of Robert and Alex of Mascots. Here is their latest single, Vertigo. Peace.